What did your sex education not prepare you for? Sex. Was never taught how to do it, or what to do. Just reproduction systems and STDs. My teacher taught me, but he ended up in a lot of trouble. Was your teacher my uncle? Did we just become best friends? Clean up. Just hose her down. That's what caused the mess in the first place. Duck. Take my upvote and just leave. Pretty much everything, since all they taught was to just not do it. Ick now. I don't have much respect for religions in general, so I have trouble thinking much deep about the goal. That they don't want premarital sex is one thing, okay, but I'm pretty sure they don't want humanity's extinction either. If school won't teach the important things, then who exactly will? To me the flip side is, if they don't tell you about anything other than to not do it, then how do you know how to do it safely? I mean, let's face it, horny teenagers are probably going to duck. You can either teach them how to use protection, or you can expect a few to get knocked up. That just furthers their goal that was mentioned above. What's a better way to get a lady out of the way than giving them a child? It's practically slavery if they are not ready. Pregnancy scares. The idea that even if you take all necessary precautions, there will be moments where everything is in doubt. Also, stress can delay periods, which doesn't help. The amount of times I have to remind my wife of this is too many. Slate. Then she gets stressed. This in turn pushes things back a bit, which causes her to get more stressed. Eventually she'll wake me up in the middle of the night and say we're all good. All the time. There are just an absurd amount of pregnancy test boxes in the closet. I have an IUD now that prevents me from getting periods. It's great, but I do buy my pregnancy tests in bulk, just in case. Also, I have constant nightmares that I'm giving birth, even though I never realized I was pregnant, and now the baby is happening and I'm not ready. Pregnancy stress is so real. I feel you. I kept dreaming that I was pregnant and gave birth. I bought a box of pregnancy test online as well. It just gives me some peace of mind to take one every other month, or if I feel like something is wrong. My doctor also told me to keep some on hand, just in case I ever get worried. That it's okay and normal not to have an orgasm every time. Freaked me out the first few times I had sex with a guy. Was worried there was something wrong with me. Freaked me out too. And I'm a dud. I can imagine. For guys it must be quite weird, because it's just kinda expected and normal for a guy to come. But yeah, it's all okay. As a gay bottom, it's extremely rare for me to come during sex, lol. All of my pleasure comes from actually getting ducked rather than coming. Hey. It's me, your top. Pussy farts. This, every time. Nearly every partner. The actual action of sex. It's great that I can label a chart of the parts, though. I'm sure that will come in handy someday. That would be real weird. The teacher telling kids how to have sex. I don't see how that would be weird. Today's lesson, heterosexual intercourse. Now, as you may already know, to have sex the penis is inserted into the vagina, though as we went over last week, for ejaculation to occur stimulation is needed. This is achieved by moving the penis forward and back, and can be assisted by certain actions from the woman, etc. Then parents would be angry because you're teaching it wrong, and the teachers would have to hear how the parents have sex because it differs. And you totally missed the finger in my asshole, etc. Well, I can put the finger in your asshole if you miss it that much. And on the first try. First and second tries for me. Finally got it to work when my girlfriend sneakily put the condom on while I was blindfolded and hopped on. You build it up in your head to be such a massive thing, and the stress causes things not to work, and that only makes it worse. For me it didn't work the first time, and the second time it did. I can't feel anything with a condom. I've tried 2 brands. Any advice here, lol? I could write a small book on how to get the best out of condoms. If the only problem is the desensitization, make sure you are using the correct size and shape for you. They come in lots of different shapes and sizes, and if they are too tight, they will affect your pleasure. You can buy variety packs from a lot of online suppliers. Also use thin ones as already mentioned. Thank you. Somehow I completely missed the notion that women have sex drives too. I thought only men want it, and it's always unpleasant for the women. I wish I had learned the truth sooner. Would have given me a lot more confidence in the dating scene. Oh yes, that was definitely a part they missed. It was either when partners love each other very much in the lower classes when we were younger, or completely male-centric. The sex ed that I, 21F, had went over the many kinds of steez one could get, paired with all the shock value pictures, told guys to always wear condoms, and highly stressed that it was better to wait. They didn't say wait until marriage specifically though. What it didn't say was to pee after sex to avoid duties. And it didn't go over common non-STI infections that people with vaginas could get, such as yeast infections or BV. Luckily by the time I lost my virginity, I already knew to pee after sex thanks to the internet. But I was not aware of how common yeast infections could be. Also, they went over different types of birth control, but had no conversation about how to actually ask for birth control / how to get on birth control. And they did not talk about active consent, which is problematic. When I lost my virginity I got a terrible yeast infection, but didn't know what it was. After the worst months of my life I finally told my mom and she took me to the doctor and admitted to her I lost my virginity, which made her immediately freak out and assume I had an STD too, which I didn't. And that's how I learned never to confide in my mom again as a teenager. I'm so sorry you were uninformed and that your mom didn't react well. I hope you have people that around you now that you can confide in and trust to support you. How it feels after a guy has come inside you. File under if you could teach a sex ed class for one day, apostrophe. They don't teach me how important foreplay is. IDK dick can hurt pussy when there's not enough juice. I don't why, but I laughed for some reason when we'd not enough juice. Oral anal, how to really communicate with a partner about anything related to sex. So damned important. Communicating needs, wants, consent, insecurities. It was basically, here's pictures of the reproductive system. Put a condom on like this. Girls have periods. Please don't get pregnant. I wish sex ed taught more about not going from anal to vaginal or oral. Porn videos seem to do it enough that guys don't realize how gross it is or the infections it can cause. Exactly. Clearly they don't need to teach detailed oral and anal technique, but some basic hygiene issues should certainly be addressed. The interactions between sex and mental health. Shit's wild, yo. Just had a partner with mental health issues. Totally agree. Anything at all to do with lesbian sex. Me and my first GF had no real idea what we were doing. Were kinda winging it and then had a pretty awkward conversation afterwards about whether or not it counted as sex and if we were still virgins. Oh wow. Imagine trying to have sex and after you're done debating whether you're still a virgin. Well yeah, there was no piv involved. So it was like, does this count? Does this constitute as sex? Is there something else we should have done? Does all of it have to count as sex? Or could we just do some of it again to count? That kind of thing. It's sex. You don't need a dick to have sex. Child support. The need for a sense of rhythm. Frantic staccato thrusting doesn't work for many women. I see you are a music geek too. As someone who works in education, this thread makes me feel kinda bad. Like we have somehow failed students. Thankfully the two teachers that primarily work in sex ed in our school are pretty damn thorough. However, it is a very ducking thin line between sex education and overstepping some professional boundaries. And that boundary can even vary depending who you talk to. For example, I'm not talking students about safe anal sex. Not because I lack knowledge, but because I cannot. I could lose my job and my license. And a ton of other consequences I won't get into. Just because I happen to read about sex a lot. Unfortunately I have to hope that students get some info from their families. For better or worse, I know they get most of it from the internet and their friends. I guess the best we can do is keep trying to put safe, sane, consensual info on related subreddits. As someone who was raised in the Bible Belt, I would categorize my sex education as mostly worthless. That being said, life finds a way. A fluid will shoot out of me at high speed and long distance. That your period will be irregular for a while, therefore inducing pregnancy scares, even if you're a virgin. Oh my god, my entire young life my period was so irregular I'd spend months worrying I was pregnant. The added stress never helped hurry things along. No one ever told me it's normal and in 20 now. How perverted the world is, and the denial of it all. This is so ducking true. Once you stop denying your own fantasies, suddenly everyone around you seems to like to talk about this. At least that's my recent experience. As one of the first generations that grew up with free, easy access internet porn, I think porn needs to be mentioned in sex ed classes. Specifically, how unrealistic the depictions are, how it can warp your view of the opposite sex, and how much is healthy/unhealthy to consume. Porn is to real life sex as WWE style wrestling is to real life fighting. It's a fake scripted fantasy version, warped and rearranged to look good on camera and tell the story to a mainstream audience without much concern for the performer's actual good time or practical applicability of the techniques in real life. That should be in sex ed. Parallel parking. So true. Excessive gruel. Bring on the gruel. Emotional abuse, manipulation, coercion. This would have been really helpful. Vertical bar. Bisexuality. I went to high school in the early 1990s and there was only a little bit of slightly enlightened stuff about homosexuality beginning to surface in the sex ed. In a maybe those people aren't all child molesters who'll give you AIDS by saying hello to you after all sort of way. But whenever homosexuality was mentioned in sex ed, it was still a very binary you're straight or you're gay thing. That didn't help me with figuring out my own sexual deal and wondering if the fact that I was crushing on some guys meant I had to somehow choose to give up the fact that I was also crushing on a bunch of girls. I was a quiet and weird kid without many friends my age and didn't end up dating at all in high school, and was well into my 20s before I actually started dealing with my sexuality in any sensible way and figuring out what it meant for me. I think a little educational reassurance that I wasn't some sort of malfunctioning freak could have gone a long way. How to get into a strap-on in the least awkward way. Common activities for the third person in a threesome. Common tips for the sixth person in an orgy. How many anal beads to start with. Best type of impact play for bruises. What to do if you're 69 and she squirts up your nose. What to do when 69 and you squirt up her nose. Just how awesome is it when your breasts smoosh into hers? Easiest way to find a stranger to finger you on the subway. How to get into a strap-on in the least awkward way. Lem know once you figured it out. Best I've come up with. Do it in the other room. Then make your entrance. Lol. Big entrance with a Superman pose. Sounds appealing. I'm in. Coming. I actually though I was supposed to pee when I was done. Wow. Have some interesting stories? Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.